Amherst Township Trustees called to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Abraham?
Here.
Lynch?
Here?
Urick?
Yes.
And I am present as well. We'll start with the meeting minutes from the September 27th regular meeting of the Amherst Township Trustees. The meeting was called to order at 7:02 p.m. by Lynch. Pledge to the flag. Roll call, Lynch, Urick, Kish, present, Abraham absent. Also in attendance, Case Marsh, S.D. Ambrosio, J. Wilhelm, and C. Neihart. 9/12/22, a motion by Lynch, seconded by Urick. Move to approve the September 13th, 2022 special meeting minutes as presented. All ayes. 9/13/22, a motion by Lynch. I'm sorry, that's a regular meeting, not a special meeting. So that needs to be as corrected. 9/13/22, a motion by Lynch, seconded by Urick. Move to approve that the August 22, 2022 credit card account transaction detail has been reviewed per policy and is accepted as presented, subject to investigation. All ayes. 9/14/22, a motion by Lynch, seconded by Urick. Move to approve the financial reports and payment of items on the payment listing, which includes ARPA fund expenditures as specified in documents provided by the fiscal officer. All ayes. Two items that Trustee Lynch wanted to bring up regarding ARPA funds update. The OTA will be sending out an updated federal uniform guidance procurement policy for those who chose revenue loss category. He will bring that forward once it is received. Our township administrator had a resident contact her regarding the sewer connection tie-in and the burden it will place on her. Trustee Lynch provided a copy of a letter he has sent to the Lorain County Commissioners regarding this issue and an update on the ARPA grant that was submitted for this project. Trustee Lynch noted he will make sure the resident knows to contact the county commissioners regarding this. Under correspondence, fiscal officer noted that we had received a notice from NOPEC stating that they were changing our electric provider. Trustee Urick noted that he also received a call from a resident regarding NOPEC that we received a complaint from just this afternoon. Reports, zoning, 85 permits year to date, 20 new homes year to date. 9 permits so far this month, 2 for new homes. 3 homes will be getting mowed in the next week that we had received complaints on. Board of Zoning Appeals turned down the request to expand home into front yard in Hidden Valley area. Under fire inspector, no report. Road, park, and cemetery. Road Superintendent Smarsh reported that they were paving Dewey Road tomorrow. We have received some of the quick curb products for the quiet zone. Typical maintenance is taking place. Under phase 2 at the last LCTA meeting, Don Romanchik noted that they are using ARPA funds for stormwater projects. Not sure yet if this will impact some of our projects or not. Under complaints, they are being handled by the designated individual. The next item is in regard to the quiet zone regarding a property owner that Trustee Lynch has tried several times with no response and is now sending a formal letter that is contained in packets. 9/15/22, a motion by Lynch, seconded by Urick. Move to enter into executive session at 7:40 p.m. according to ORC sections 121.22G8 for TIF and annexation and 121.22G1 for personnel items. All ayes. 9/16/22, a motion by Lynch, seconded by Urick. Move to return from executive session at 8:47 p.m. All ayes. The next regularly scheduled meeting will be Tuesday, October 11th, 2022 at 7 p.m. at the Amherst Township Hall. 9/17/22, a motion by Urick, seconded by Lynch to adjourn at 8:49 p.m. All ayes.
Okay, if there are no additional changes other than the notation that it wasn't a special meeting but a regular meeting on September 13th, can I have a motion to approve the September 27th meeting minutes as read and corrected?
I so move.
I'll second.
Urick?
Yes.
Lynch?
Yes.
Abraham?
Abstain.
Okay, I have also in front of me the special emergency trustee meeting from September 30th, 2022. The meeting was called to order at 7:35 a.m. by Neil Lynch. Roll call Lynch, Urick present, Abraham Kish absent. Additional attendees, Case Marsh. Motion to suspend the reading of the September 27th, 22 meeting minutes. 9/18/22, a motion by Lynch, seconded by Euring. Motion to enter into executive session per ORC 121.22G1. All ayes. 9/19/22, motion by Lynch, seconded by Euring to return from executive session. All ayes. 9/20/22, a motion by Lynch, seconded by Euring. A motion for road department personnel addition and succession management. All ayes. 9/21/22, a motion by Euring, seconded by Lynch to adjourn. All ayes, and the meeting was adjourned at 8:30 a.m.
Are there any changes or corrections to the September 30th special meeting minutes?
I have none.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Lynch?
Yes.
Euring?
Yes.
Abraham?
Abstain.
Okay, financial reports. You have the payment listing in front of you. Everything's pretty much normal. Do you have any questions on any of the payments?
And this wouldn't be on the payments, Chris, but taking on the ARPA funding and expenditure, you're just waiting till you accumulate things and then make another transfer? Because right now, it's just so far this year, the roughly $218,562.
Or the expenditures?
Yes.
Well, I owe another payroll. The quarter
So
just
you're
ended.
just going to do it
Quarter.
each quarter? That's what I wanted to know.
Yes.
Okay.
Our year-to-date expenditure, or I'm sorry, our year-to-date revenue is $1,816,187.70. And our expenditures are $1,185,783.27.
Kevin, what was the payment to, find it now. To the tree guy, the stump guy?
The stump guy, that's the cleanup on the properties that Sam had brought to everybody's attention.
Oh, okay,
Three different properties,
okay. Good
two
enough.
different homeowners.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry, Kevin, I didn't mean to jump.
No, did you, you didn't do that $1,500 one from the stump guy, did you?
No, you just gave it to me.
Correct, yeah, okay. I was thinking that's what he
No.
was talking
We should expect then for the remainder of the year, then maybe some grant funds, probably about $16,000 then, Chris, through the end of the year, additional revenue.
Grant funds
No,
for,
not except grant funds, if any come in, because there's still a potential on the Engle Ditch project. You had sent that email about Wolf Brothers, so that potentially could come in. So ignoring grant funds, regular funds coming in, probably about another $16,000 for the remainder of the year. Probably all we'd expect to see.
Diane Wolf did call again, though. She's begging for somebody to give her an answer.
Okay, well, we can talk about that under phase 2 later then. Okay, I didn't put anything in the packets here, but you saw the response, and I made sure I included Pete Sawick, Jessica Hazlowski in the Stormwater District, and Don Romanchak, the director of that district, to decide how to, proceed on this. I don't know if Pete's come to you to see that the work has met what he had on that inspection report back towards the end of July.
about. That's what, well, we met at that time. Everybody was out there. That was the last.
But that inspection report came subsequent to that, didn't it? You didn't meet with Pete specifically. Someone else, was Pete there?
Yeah,
Okay.
Pete, Steve, all the Wolf son, father, other worker.
Okay, and that's, Chris, when you sent that out in the distribution list, I was only answering for myself. I've received no communication, but I included Pete, Jessica, and Don, so if they sent a communication, I'm sure they would send another one, and we could see it, but, you know, the contractor needs to be paid, and then it'll be between the township and the county deciding on the apportionment there, because Wolf Brothers, two things impacted the project. They came in under the engineer's original estimate, so they're, and then the part of it wasn't done because it was a determination they didn't need to take down the bridge over a culvert, a fence, and put in a separate gate for access, so they were using an alternate way to get through that private property so they could maintain the drainage course. So with that in mind, you know, you look at the amount, you know, the total grant funds that were allocated would cover the full project, but I suspect they're probably going to want to portion that down. Whether we apportion it based on the original engineer's estimate, and because that's how we determine how much we could commit to hit the percentages, to hit the scoring criteria, and so from there determine what the county owes and what we owe. And I didn't bring the document with me here. I was waiting to hear back from Don or Jessica, but I think ultimately from the township standpoint it'd be around $25,000 that we would owe. And I think there's still about $51,000 owed to Wolf Brothers in total, so approximately half to us and half to the county, based on my estimates. But I'm going based on the original numbers as presented by the engineer in the estimate, and that's what we use for the scoring criteria to determine our contribution to get the highest point value we could within our available funds also, because we obviously can't exceed the monies we have. Okay? So hopefully somebody responds to that email. As far as I think you sent it to David and Denny, I don't know if they responded to you, but I can only speak on my behalf. I had no communication from Pete, which was your question, since then, as far as you know, his acceptance of the work there.
That's why we met there that day, because he had that fulfillment list, you know, we called a list at the end of the project.
He had, what's that, Kevin?
He had that hit list.
Oh, yeah, in his inspection report, and he had some areas that he wanted filled in where there was some rutting, and he wanted some slopes changed, and yeah, he had a very detailed list with photos. But, you know, Chris asked if we had received any correspondence, and I could only answer for myself, I have not. But I included Pete on that so he'd be aware of it. So all he has to say is, yes, everything meets the specification, he's satisfied with it, and then it's up to Jessica and Don to meet with the township and decide what's his apportionment and in what sequence they want to do. Or they want to just provide the full amount to pay Wolf Brothers through the township, or do they want to just provide their apportionment? Now, who determines what that apportionment is? I know the way I estimated it, but you know, ultimately we need them to agree with that too.
It was specified for them to contact when they was going to come out and finish that off. I was never contacted.
Okay. Well, and that's again, it's Chris's question is, who did they contact, if anybody? There's multiple people here at the township. That's why I think I included Linda in the correspondence too. So I covered everybody in the township, everybody that should be contacted the county, so they're all on that email. Hopefully somebody raises their hand and says, yeah, I've got that information, and go ahead and pay it.
Did they even come out?
I can't tell you. I can't answer for somebody else's actions.
Sure.
I can only answer for mine, and that's what I did.
Did we take a vote on the bills?
Not
We
yet,
weren't done with
because this is
payments.
the one impacting the financials, and the question came up.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, I said I'd wait till the Phase 2 discussion, but it got carried away, so I just
Okay,
want
all
to
right.
understand what's going on. But if there's,
Wanted to make sure I wasn't losing my mind.
well, I can't answer that either, David. I can only answer for my own action. But, okay, well, in any case, I'm going to make a motion then to approve the financial reports and the payments of the items on the payment listing, which includes ARPA fund expenditures as specified in the documentation or the documents provided by the fiscal officer.
I will second.
Lynch?
Yes.
Euring?
Yes.
Abraham?
Yes.
What's the number on that, Chris?
10-3. And then I just wanted to note that the 2020-2021 audit is in the final stages, and we hope to have that wrapped up this week or next. I've also been in contact with the Ohio Office of Budget and Management representative who's investigating into the CARES expenditures and explained my situation to him, and they're willing to work with me whenever I can get them the information. And I attended the Ohio Association of Public Treasurers annual conference that was held last Wednesday through Friday, the 5th through the 7th, and have fulfilled my Ohio State Treasurer's Office annual CPIM requirements, as well as the Auditor's Fiscal Integrity Act requirements.
Good. Okay, is there anything else on the financials? All right. I don't see anyone here other than people that are on the agenda, so we'll move on. And actually, before we hit correspondence, since the community policing officer is here, I'm going to call on him first so that he can get out of here and do what we really pay him for.
Good evening, everybody. Long time. Good to be back. So for the month of September, there were only 18 calls for service for the entire Amherst Township, which is amazing. Actually, speaks very well of the community. All of those were primarily self-initiated activity from officers. So we're looking at traffic stops or follow-ups. I believe the only thing that was on the list that was not self-initiated was a disabled motor vehicle. So 18 calls, and that's about it. Any questions or concerns for me?
No, I have none.
Glad to see you.
That's good. I read
Good
the
to be
police
back.
reports in the local paper, and a
It's
lot of stuff going on out there. It's
been busy.
all right, Brandon. Well, I appreciate it. I just didn't want you to get stuck here. The rest of the.
Well, I appreciate you guys. You have a wonderful evening.
Yeah.
Thank
And I assume you're still on the clock and not going to watch the Guardians game.
That is exactly it.
Okay.
There's still work to be done.
All right. Have a good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, we'll move on to then correspondence. Chris.
I've been.
Okay, David.
I have nothing to bring forward at this time.
All right, Danny.
Nothing.
All right, there's two items in your packet here of the correspondence. One is just the agenda for the 2022 Lorraine County Township seminar that's being put on by the prosecutor's office. Will be on Thursday, October 27th at New Russia Township Hall. Registration there will be at 5:30 p.m. and they expect it to end at 8 o'clock p.m. So I would definitely say be there early. Experience in the past, when you get that check-in, it is a flood of people. And they usually, I expect there's going to be several hundred people there. So it's, get there early, get checked in, get some coffee, tea, water, and a piece of pie, and, or they may hold the pie back till a break in between. But you've got the agenda here on what's going to be covered. Prosecutor Tomlinson will open up and give the introductions, but we will have Assistant County Prosecutor and Chief of the Civil Division, Dan Petticourt, there going over the public meetings and records requests. Katie Kiefer on foreclosures. I'm sure, Sam, you'll probably be interested in how that happens in the process. Chris Podnowski on employment, and that's obviously something that we're going through right now and some adjustments, but it's going to be more from the standpoint of legal requirements. And I know Linda, and she probably won't get into details tonight, there's other items based on a seminar she just had to attend, a required attendance that impacts employment and may require some adjustments in our policy. Lee Crew on contracts, Greg Peltz on ditches, drainage, and other township issues, and Tom Mangan will cover zoning. So hopefully we can be out of there at 8 o'clock. And I expect they'll try and keep this right on time. And I think the township, there's 13 confirmed and 1 maybe, I believe. The next item, and this just requires a decision from the trustees and zoning inspectors, is David Adelsberg, the GIS assistant manager in the auditor's department, he showed an app, a zoning app they have, where since the auditor takes care of maintaining the zoning maps based on the information that the townships provide them, is they can now add a layer where all the zoning between those unincorporated areas can be brought up on the auditor's mapping website, which I think would be very helpful in seeing what the zoning is for various districts from a color overlay versus having to open up each individual parcel and then looking at how it's coded, which you can do today. This will give you a nice visual presentation. I sent a communication to David if this would include the municipalities. He said not at this time because they don't necessarily have all that information since some of the municipalities maintain their own mapping. But they said certainly they'd want to eventually get to that so that, it's a one-stop shop to go and look for this information. And by now, Sam, you're probably realizing realtors are always looking for this and making calls on it, and they tend to go to our website first, but they got to drill down to find it. Now it might push them right to the auditor's website where they can see it all at once. Eventually, they still will have to go to the individual community because there can be a change that's in process, or between the map updates that are done by the auditor's department, we're obviously maintaining a map in paper copy here, so we don't send a request for every single change that occurs right now. It seems to be as they're grouped up and sent over. If it gets to the point where the auditor can handle that type of turnaround and all the printing that goes on with that, we might do it at a higher frequency rate in the future. But right now, those get bunched up, and so no more than once a year, probably once every 5 years, that we actually send any type of zoning changes that have occurred in the township. But I already sent to Dave Adelsberg that I don't think there'd be any objection, but I wanted to hear from Dave and Denny because I can't speak on your behalf as far as his recommendation here. Okay,
I
Sam?
have no objections.
Okay, there's a colored copy in yours. Everyone, only you and the trustees got the colored copies.
Okay.
It was just a sample he put out there that shows, it basically will be by color what the zoning is. Okay? All right, then I'm going to let him know that the township's in support. He didn't ask for a motion on that. But I'm going to make a motion that the Amherst Township, and I'm sorry, Chris, this isn't prepared, but this came in Friday, so that the Amherst Township Board of Trustees support the Lorraine County zoning web app. Okay. Now look for a second.
I'll second it.
Lynch?
Yes.
Abraham?
Yes.
Urick?
Yes.
And what's that motion number, Chris?
10-4.
10-4.
10-4.
Remember that one. I'll just send a email response to Mr. Adelsberg. Okay, we'll move on to other reports. We already had the sheriff, so zoning, Sam?
Yep. You all have the printout in front of you. We're up to a total of 87 permits, 20 new homes year to date. We only have one permit pulled this month so far. We completed all the mowing for those 3 properties. We will be hauling a couple junk vehicles off of Deepwood this week, 315 Deepwood. And as you all know, I will be pursuing the K Drive property. We'll be sending out, I'll post it this week and see what happens.
Any questions for Sam?
No, I've already asked them.
All right, and Linda, since it kind of deals with what Sam just brought up for the property maintenance items, did you want to discuss any of the communication you've had with the auditor, or is it premature right now in terms of reimbursement?
I just sent it over, it was on Friday, to Betsy Van Sant, who's in charge of that.
Okay.
So I'm waiting for her to get back to me and let me know if everything I sent was approved or if she needs more information. But we wanted to get it over quickly in case the homes went into foreclosure.
Right.
And something would, fall between the cracks.
Right, and then unfortunately, the township is stuck with the expense.
Yeah, and these are big expenses because it was quite a bit of cleanup.
Well, I appreciate the work you guys are doing on that, and I'm sure the adjoining residents do too.
Oh, yeah, they look like real houses now.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, are there any other questions then for Sam? All right, fire prevention's not here. Roads, parks, and cemetery, Superintendent Smarsh.
Well, Dewey Road was paved and bermed and painted, so that is complete. And I'll be working with Linda here, and we'll get that on the roll with the OPWC, get that taken care of. Did a round of crack sealing. The leaves are starting to fall, so we're getting into that. But basically, it's typical everyday maintenance.
Any questions for Kevin?
No, I have none.
I'm getting a note down, and I'll let Chris catch up too. Okay, there is one other item, the next item, and I want to handle this under roads, even though I put it under new business. This is the hiring a replacement road department personnel. As we're all aware, Eddie did leave the township for a different position, and I don't know that this individual has told their existing employer yet, but in any case, the trustees had a special meeting where we interviewed him, made an offer. The offer's been accepted, but there was one question after the individual reviewed the township personnel policy. Is our policy currently has a 6-month delay before an individual is eligible for holiday pay. Obviously, with their current employer, they receive that holiday pay. And so the request was that the township waive that 6-month delay. So this resolution is, we'll reconsider resolution number 9/2022 that extended the employment offer in terms of this individual. So again, this here will be hiring a road department person reporting to the superintendent at wage class B, which is $24.01 per hour, conditional on passing all the employment investigation, performance tests, and an examination required by the trustee. And I know that between Linda and Kevin, they've taken care of that in getting the drug testing and background testing. And I believe, Chris, you would have checked probably with the DMV as far as licensing, or maybe that's still to come.
Nope,
But,
there's a whole new procedure.
Yeah,
So,
All right, and then
I'll talk.
Yep.
they'll have to work with Chris as far as all the documentation that's required for a new employee coming on. And some of that's just taxing districts that they've got to take care of, and the OPERS and any other deductions from payroll. We'd already, in the employment terms, provided 10 days of vacation beginning on January 1st, 2023, versus waiting. So I'm going to make the motion to approve this resolution as prepared.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion?
Lynch?
Yes.
Abraham?
Yes.
Urick?
Yes.
And that's 10-5.
10-5.
I'm just going to go through the complaints here. Deer Run, I think Pam's already addressed that. Speedway noise, did you get back to that individual to let
I
them
left a
know?
message on her machine.
Okay, so I can take that off. They,
Yes. Never heard back, so.
okay, the storage shed, you're taking care of that, and the other one over on the road, you're taking care of that, so I'll just leave those on here, probably, Linda, till you get the information back to the auditor's office on, two of them are the property maintenance issues, the other one is the storage shed location. Okay, the other items have responsibility assigned to specific trustees. Is there anything under your area of responsibility to bring up?
No.
Okay.
Neil, I would just say that under solid waste, the policy committee did meet today, sending a draft plan down to the EPA for their scrutiny. What came up under the plan was talking about a budget shortfall, so a combination of cutting the items and also increasing revenues. Well, it came back that, one of the thoughts at the last meeting, prior to this one, was that possible increase in the tipping fee, in addition to a generation fee. And found out that in the host community agreement, which is good through 2026, it states that to the fact that there won't be a change in the tipping fee, and the county won't support a change or in the tipping fee. Increase in the T.
2026.
Yeah, as long as it's in the host community agreement is in effect. So that being said, it's already at $2 and it can't go higher than $2. So that becomes a moot point. So any increased revenue would have to come through a generation fee.
Can you explain what a generation fee is?
That would be an in-district fee paid for by everyone in the district based on the amount, well, it would be based on per ton. And it would go into the cost of waste generation, or the cost of the waste disposal. So
what if you don't, if your waste doesn't go into the Lorraine County landfill, would that resident pay a tipping fee?
they would pay
A
the
generation
generation
fee.
fee because it's a generations, they're generating it in this district. I understand it. So even if it goes to Rumpke or goes down south, you're generating it, you're still gonna pay on that. Comes to $4 a ton, the way I understand it, would be like $1 or $2 per individual a year. It's not going to be an exorbitant amount.
How
It's
much-
still
How much per year?
$1 or $2, if I remember right, Neil. I want to say that people don't generate a ton of waste a year on per capita, but you know, divide by whatever somebody generates by 4, and by that, and dollars per ton.
So it'd be very small.
Yeah, but still, it's a fee. It's a fee.
Right. And then the tipping fee and the host community agreement, that's where that $2 limit's set, because going back from previous board,
Yeah.
they reduced it.
222.
Okay, but that's because of the host community agreement, that's not a statute, because it used to be higher.
I believe the statute says you can go up to 4.
Okay,
So that's, matter of fact, I believe it was 4 at one time.
right, and it got
And it got
reduced.
reduced to
It was
2.
reduced because the current owner of the landfill, which is a publicly traded company, claimed they were losing business, which reduced revenue for them and for the county, so they requested the tipping fee to be reduced, and that was done. So, and again, I just don't understand with the host community agreement. I assume that that's where they put in that would stay reduced through 2026.
That the county commissioners would not entertain even looking at it or having it in a plan, having planned or changing the tipping fee. So it's at least through the 2026. But we'll have to do an amendment to the plan if that would change after 2026. We'll let you know about that. Now, on one of the cuts, things that they recommended, first, not to have the community incentive grants anymore.
Yeah,
Boy,
of course,
was
that's
that-
going to be number one.
And
They've already reduced that to next to nothing.
second item would be the money that goes to the sheriff's department, the health department, the county engineer would be more of invoiced payments, so to speak, pay for what you get rather than a blanket amount. So if you're going to use it for a certain purpose, whatever that purpose costs, you'll be paid for that, rather than just give you X amount of dollars, and if you don't use it all, it just kind of goes into the general budget. But this
Oh,
way,
it wasn't returned to the solid
as far as
waste
I
district?
know, it's like grants to them, but this way they'll have to invoice it. It'll
But
be kind of a pay-as-you-go type deal, as opposed to just a blanket amount. You'll give them flat, like a grant. But some of those, are in excess of $100,000, and that's quite a lot of money went there. As far as that goes, I didn't like to see the community incentive grants being let go. They do help, and we, like as you said, Neil, the community's paying to it. You get something back out of what you pay in, and not just to maintain the office down there. So, did not want to see it go. I was upset about that. I wasn't doing a happy dance about that tipping fee. The ironic thing about it is that with the tipping fee staying at 2 and the in-county generation fee going up to $4, the in-county residents in the county would be paying more in fees than the out-of-county people, which is,
Yeah.
and think about it.
Right.
You got a $4 generation fee, a $2 tipping fee, and the out of county only has a $2 fee since they're not generating it here. So it's just ironic, it's not what was intended. What was intended with putting some fees on is to make your landfills, or make landfills in the county less attractive, so that it doesn't attract waste from out of county, in particular from the East Coast. So you didn't want to become a cheap alternative and then have landfills sprouting up all over the place, and or you know what, you're the landfill capital of the world. That's not what you wanted. So ironically, we're the ones that now are paying more than the out of county.
And
It's still more than if without a fee, but still.
But what's even more aggravating is all of us that are part of the consortium aren't even using that landfill because they refuse to accept it from an alternate carrier. So anybody that has Rumpke or Kimball, I know Avon Lake's using Kimball as part of the consortium, and we use Rumpke because Avon Lake required the yard waste pickup at the curb, and for us it was just too expensive per person, so we turned it down.
But a fee,
We're paying those generation fees now too, so not only are we going to pay a fee, we're not using it.
well, but we still, even if we don't use the landfill, because it's taken out of the district, we still have to pay a fee. We still have to pay the tipping fee.
I would have thought we got rewarded for meeting what the statute says is conserving landfill space.
So I think that's a net of what you generate, as far as what you generate, not so much as whether you don't put it here, put it over there. It's just don't put it, just don't make anything to put, that's all.
Do you know how much went to the Lorraine County Public Health?
I don't have the dollar in front of me. I want to say in excess of 100,000. That sticks in my mind.
I just wondered if that, when that was originally set, was before we had a county-wide health department. At that time, we still had basically 4 different districts, if you will. We had the county one that all the townships were part of, and some of the smaller villages. Then Lorraine had their own. Avon Lake had theirs through an agreement with the city of Lorraine, and Elyria had their own. And because of the tightening requirements that it was very expensive for them to meet, it became county-wide. And as a result of that, the overall, so those areas giving up their health department because of the expense now had to pay the property tax millage. It made the millage for everybody else go down overall, so that they were all paying their fair share. So I just wasn't sure if the health department required that $100,000 anymore. They may, I don't know their budget. But I just start to wonder if we're receiving no funds, why we should even be worried about participating in any of this.
The only big leaf that was put out was that the district would support and assist communities in getting grants from, say, the EPA. And any grants should come directly from the EPA and not from the district.
So the larger cities that have their own grant writers and community development departments, so smaller, like people with us that operate with part-timers, are basically getting nothing.
According to them, according to Levins, the office would ask, when you get a grant, they would help you write the grant that way. Step in for you, and also mentioned possibly on a case-by-case basis, do the grants and provide any local match. If a community was required to do a local match, which most grants do have a local match component, then they could provide the local match.
So we'd be able to apply for like our yard waste to cover that?
Why, the EPA's got something.
And then if we're receiving no grant funds, do we have to include the county commissioner's logo in our newsletter anymore?
I would think after this hearing, no, I would think no, you know, that was a stipulation for the funds.
Okay, well, I appreciate it,
But
David, it's,
I wanted to let you know, as
Yeah.
far as, no tipping fee change, there's gonna be a generation fee. They're gonna do away with community grants, they're going to try to cut back on what's given to the health department, sheriff, and the county engineer by going more as a specific project oriented rather than a blanket amount.
all right, thank you.
And the meetings next year will move to Thursday. We have one more Tuesday meeting, but the meetings for the policy committee will move to the second Thursday of the month, starting in 2023. And the next
At
meeting,
10 o'clock?
9 o'clock. Let's see if we have one in January, I'm not sure. Whether we're going to go every other month, or it depends, because we're in the planning process, we may need a meeting to meet the deadlines for the plan.
Okay, so that'd be 9 o'clock a.m. on the second Thursday of the month?
Yes, starting in 2023.
David, do we have to have the yard waste ground by the end of this year and paid for?
We should try to get that done. That's still part of the grant. We've got, what, $7,000 roughly? We still have to spend that.
It's got to be done.
Once we spend that, we're done.
Okay.
You want to get somebody lined up even before we get the leaf pile?
Try and see what they got going, at least get some.
Yeah, get on the schedule.
Trying to get it the end of November, and so we can have it paid by December and get the paperwork in.
Yep.
That's all.
Okay, all right, thanks, David. Okay, Denny, anything?
No.
All right, then I do have just,
What about Linda?
Wait, you skipped me.
oh, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped you.
Wait, you skipped me.
All right,
As Neil had said earlier, that I went to a Department of Transportation occupational health training on yesterday, and it was 4.5 hours long. It was quite detailed. Anyhow, bottom line is, we have some policy changes that we need to make to be in compliance with the federal government. Some of this clearinghouse that they've initiated started a couple years ago, and we have to be a member of it. And that's how we're going to be doing the background checks on our CDL drivers, and how they're going to be reporting to us any violations, whether it be a drug test, positive alcohol test, or whatever. And we have to pull queries on those every year. When they're brand new pre-employment, we have to pull a full query, and then every year after that, it has to be a limited, which is what I believe Chris is pulling now, every year, the driver's license. This eventually should all be in one, so that we just have to look at the clearinghouse to be able to tell whether or not we have valid CDL licenses, or if there's any issues. One of the things that did come up is if there is a violation of any sort on their CDL, they cannot be anywhere near our trucks. They can't work on the trucks. They can't stay with a disabled truck should it be on the road. They can't do anything. They can't even get inside of it just to tap the brake pedal for somebody else to work on the brakes. So if their violations are not taken care of in a certain period of time, the township can be fined $250,000 per employee. And that's not the employee with the violation, that's every employee that you have, which in our case is 2. So we stand to, if we don't comply with this, we stand to have a fine of up to $500,000. So, that being said, we do need to do the policy changes. There's things that are required on there, and we need, I already talked to Chris a little bit about it, we need a designated email for the information to be relayed, and that we can check it, and we're going to do the fiscal officer. That way, it's staying private in case there's an issue. I'll still be the contact person through the health department because I've had the training. So then if they do the random drug testing or whatever, I can let Kevin know that he or Russell will need to go get tested. And there's certain windows, and I'll talk to Kevin about it. I'm sure he's aware because those haven't changed. And then-
Questions on that?
Go ahead.
Yes, I do have a question.
Mhm.
How long are you going to stay with us?
I have no idea, Denny. As long as the good Lord lets me
Well,
wake up
that's
in the
great.
morning.
I'm glad to hear that because it seems like you're becoming more and more important to us.
And my job has grown. Yes.
Yeah, and this
Well,
is,
that's great. That's great.
and this
and-
will require additional meetings, though, with the trustees and road department.
Right,
Future,
yeah,
because-
there's a lot of things that have to be kind of ironed out. But temporarily, at least, I was able to step in because I talked to her on Friday. She had a class on Monday, and she said, we really need to get lined up with this, so that's why I went.
Thank you for giving 4.5 hours of your Columbus
It was a
Day
lot. I had a headache at the end, but anyways.
training.
And just one more side note, it's Medicare open enrollment time. Starts October 15th and lasts through December 7th. So any residents that are seniors that are on Medicare that need comparisons for their plans, just to give the office a call. And we'll set up an appointment for them to come in. I have my, kind of the same people usually contact me every year, and they know when to contact me, so.
It's good they have a comfort level versus, I mean, you see all the advertising going out, you always worry they're going to direct you to what helps them best.
And one thing is OSHA did stress in, I've probably been in 3 webinars with them, do not listen to the TV news.
Yeah.
You know, as far as, don't listen to the stars that are selling these plans because they are not telling you 100% accurate truth for Ohio. Because each state is different. And they kind of get on there and promise you the world. And when you look at it, it's not what they're promising you. So they said, don't, whatever you get in the mail, throw away. Whatever you know,
That's what I do.
don't call the
Because
numbers on the TV.
I don't know how much of my tonnage, David, is going to be Medicare solicitation.
It's terrible. Yeah.
Yeah.
But other than that, that's all I had.
Well, thanks, Linda. And we'll just, as you get more into, reading all the documentation you had from the training, and maybe can scale it down to what we
What we
really
need to
have
do,
to
right.
do versus
Mhm.
some of the things that's probably more applicable to much larger organization.
Right.
Okay, I did want to bring people up to date as to the status on the quiet zone. We've got, Kevin completed the township's portion as far as installing the curb delineators on Dewey Road and Oakland Road, and the county engineer in the city of Elyria have completed Dewey Road, West Ridge Road, and the city of Amherst and Brownhelm Township now need to take care of Cooper Foster, and then there'll be Amherst doing Cross Road. And then at least for those 5 railroad crossings, we can get all the final information sent to the consultant, which will then send the inventory requirements for each crossing to the Federal Railway Administration. And once we hear back that everything's okay, is each community that has that road responsibility will put up the sign indicating that there are no train horns. And Kevin's got his signs, and I'm sure each other community does, but we can't put them up till it's designated. Then beyond that, the city of Elyria and Elyria Township are looking at extending that all the way through Elyria, which will give us, starting from the Vermilion limits, if you will, through all of Lorraine County heading east will now be a quiet zone because North Ridgeville already is. But Elyria's got some other hurdles they're trying to overcome. We did apply for, with all those communities, for a county grant. At this point in time, the initial, based on a communication I just received this week, doesn't look promising, but I'm going to continue on with that. I think that they may not have all of the information for the decision makers, which are the county commissioners, and I think some of the information may not have been complete and accurate that they're making their decision on. Realize they're looking at a huge stack of all these applications, so they're probably going through it pretty quick to make a decision. So I requested a meeting to discuss this in more detail, but we'll see what happens. Then Kevin and I will be meeting Thursday at 11 o'clock, and Joe did confirm 11 o'clock, Kevin. Look at the access for the property here on the east side of Oberlin Road. I think Chris had read in the minutes there was one property owner who was further to the north, hadn't gotten back. That individual did get back to me. I've had those discussions. From what I was sensing in the discussion, they're not inclined to have a shared drive, so we're going to take the alternate of probably extending in the right-of-way, either just stone or pave. It will require potentially some tiling there, which I know Kevin wanted to do anyway, so you have the flat mowing, but it just might expedite that. But we're going to meet with the property owner to discuss those options, and then from that, decide if we employ that option, or it may be, since between he and his neighbor, they might change their mind and then want to go with the shared drive. But we're at least going to have those discussions so they know what the options are further. But I think that's going to be the more likely direction we're going to go. And then we'll avoid where we talked that third option coming through the back of the township's yard waste area and coming through the township drive, because then we wouldn't be able to gate that off.
Right.
You'd have to move some of your yard waste pile. You'd have interference between the different sports groups that are currently using that when they're parked in there. So we just want to avoid that if we can. And I think we can. Okay, that's...
I would share with Denny what I shared with you. I did receive a call from one resident and brought up about on the quiet zones, this large agricultural machinery, tractors, combines, planters, and some of it's quite large and wouldn't be able to fit around the barriers. They have to basically use the road and then use the whole road and then get over when oncoming traffic appears. And what to do about that is how to accommodate that with a quiet zone like that. There's still, one or two people at least in the township that are farming. They have the large equipment, and it could be an impediment to them, and they're trying to get from one field to another as quick as they can, to go a different route and a different time is going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult. I know brought up before, contractors want to get something done. They want to get something done now. They got to wait for this. They got to wait for that. And same thing with the farmer. They're under a short window, maybe weather, maybe time, and they got to get their crops either in or out. Mm-hmm. And maybe they got to wait till 4 in the morning when there's no traffic on the road to move their equipment. They might lose a day, or they might lose hours because it's a bad time to move the equipment, or they just have added time and expense to move it a longer distance because they can't go directly because of the barriers. I don't know if there's an accommodation on this. Somehow I don't think that this is the first time this has come up. Obviously, it's the first time it's come up for us, but I think in the history of dealing with these crossings, I think that it's probably come up before, and I wonder how they've dealt with it. But I wanted to bring that up before Denny and you in the meeting, that there's a concern about moving the agricultural equipment and not being able to get around the barriers at the railroad crossing.
I
Due
can
to the width
certainly
of the
discuss it,
equipment.
I can discuss it with the consultant, David, but I don't think that's going to change the physical parameters. When you and I had that discussion, when you brought the concern up, I mentioned it's not just agriculture, it's any wide load that comes through. We just had this week, we had several trailers with wide loads with the escorting and so the preceding and succeeding vehicles with the flashers and the flag, the whole bit, because of this development, they had to come in from the other direction. And, you know, it's, again, we've got to make the decision best for all. There are alternative routes around. And if it's strictly a timing of getting to your fields, I would like to know who has to come through, how many in the future, because I would think if I were going to be driving that type of equipment, I have to make a decision. Do I go down the road where there's a good chance there's a train stopped there blocking my access, which we have today, or do I want to use one of the overpasses where I know how much time it's going to take to go around and I can go down that direction? Because we have that today. As you're seeing in our township, the ag sections are becoming less. We're losing a large portion with the what's going on with the sandstone development. And I shared with you, which it seemed like you weren't aware of that I know Tomies do the farming of the property up on Middle Ridge there by Cherry Hill. But I can certainly talk with the consultant, but I think people are going to have to go around. And as far as the frequency, we're not talking that often. Typically, they come in, if they're cultivating, which they don't do every year. Sometimes they'll do the no-till, but if they are cultivating, they come in and they'll take care of that. And they've got their weed killer, they're planting, and then it's later in the year they come back and harvest. It's very infrequent that they come through. And 58 is an alternative. We have ag equipment going down 58 already today because I drive behind it quite often. And everybody's got different types of equipment also. So the larger ones that fold up, I assume, are the ones. But have we heard from a specific individual that's actually currently
No, I haven't.
field?
I haven't.
Okay.
I haven't. And I invited the individual to talk to them to come down.
All right, because the
And-
fields on Oberlin Road were just harvested. And the delineators were already there. So those have already been done. I don't know when the one on Middle Ridge will be done.
Or the ones on Stang.
Right, and I don't know what the end of, you know, when somebody calls, I'd like to know, are they fields that they own the property or they lease the property? Because that makes a difference too. When it's just leasing it, you're deciding up front which fields you're going to lease based on what the potential soils are and their locations for your efficiency, because they're obviously big business. Farming, it's a hard business, but it's big business. But I certainly don't want to see something that benefits over 20,000 people, you know, be some way perceived as a negative for what could be an inconvenience for an extra 5 minutes. Particularly when you can go a guaranteed route and avoid a stopped train, which could be much longer than 5 minutes. And everybody here knows those trains block that intersection quite often. So I haven't checked the West Ridge Road, if that's another option, because I don't know the width going around there, but I can certainly ask. Okay? All right.
Well, brought it up.
Is there anything else then?
I have nothing.
Okay, then there will be a need for an executive session. This is to discuss the TIF proposal on the sandstone development. So I'm going to make a motion to enter into executive session per revised code section 121.22G. Bear with me here, Chris.
I think it's 8.
You're right, G8. And this will be for the if it's 5709.77 through 5709.81. But essentially, it's discussing the different TIF proposals that have now been presented to the trustees that you'll be seeing for the first time. The new ones, because we received some previously, but we got completely different ones. When you're ready, Chris.
I need a second.
Yep, I understand.
I'll second it.
Thank you, sir. Lynch?
Yes.
Abraham?
Yes.
Urick?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion that we return to the regular meeting from executive session at 8:55 PM.
Second.
Lynch?
Yes.
Urick?
Yes.
Abraham?
Yes.
Okay, our next regular meeting will be on Tuesday, October 25th. There is no scheduled work session at this time, but I'll inform the trustees if that's required. Can I have a motion to adjourn if there's no other business?
I will so move.
I will second.
Abraham?
Yes.
Urick?
Yes.
Lynch?
Yes.